Okay, the first thing we want to do today is to go over the questions that you were assigned, and that is on page 239, numbers 6 through 8. So check your own paper, please. Number 6 says, during the Second Great Awakening, which were more emotional, the revivals in the East or the revivals in the West? What did you say, Stephen?
The West was more emotional?
Yes, the West was more emotional. Second part of the question, in which region did the revival center in schools and churches? What did you say, Steph?
I had East.
You had East?
Yeah.
You still have East? Yes? Okay, it is East, yes. So 2 points for number 6. West is the first answer, East is the second. All right, now we come to the fun part. Number 7, naming religious figures described by each phrase. So who was the foreign missionary to Burma? Haley?
American Board of Commissioners.
We're looking for a person. Religious figure is a person. What person did you have, Alex?
Adoniram Judson.
Yes, Adoniram Judson is the answer to A. Each of these is worth a point. B, who originated the camp meeting? Lahana?
James McReady.
That is correct, James McCready. C, who founded the African Methodist Episcopal Church? Caleb?
Richard Allen.
Correct, Richard Allen. D, who sparked the prayer meeting revival that we haven't gone to yet, but we will eventually? Nate?
Jeremiah Lamphere.
Right, Jeremiah Lamphere. Number E, who oversaw the Yale revivals? Hayden?
Timothy Dwight.
Correct. Grandson of Jonathan Edwards, Timothy Dwight. F, who founded Mormonism? Jessica?
Joseph Smith.
Correct. We're just looking at him now. Joseph Smith. G, who was the father of American Methodism? Megan?
Francis Asbury.
Correct. Francis Asbury. H, who taught faith in man instead of faith in Christ? Sophia?
Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Correct. Ralph Waldo Emerson. How many of you have read anything by Emerson in English class? Maybe, or this year? Is it? What did you read? Walden?
Never mind. Well, no, but it's still a part of the transhumanism. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Who practiced the new measures? Lydia?
Thomas Finney.
Correct. Finney. And Jay, who incorrectly predicted the second coming? Devin?
William Miller.
Correct. William Miller. All right, so there are 10 points there altogether, number 7. Number 8, at least 3 reasons offered by Southerners in defense of slavery. Can you give me one, Ron?
Because of the economic need for it.
Right, so economic necessity. Give me another one, Devin.
They claimed it was sanctioned by the Bible.
All right, so they tried to cite the Bible as supporting slavery. Give me another one, Sally.
They said the slaves were better off where they were like provided for rather than going to try to make their lives on their own.
Okay, that is correct. And anybody have any other ones? There are other possibilities. You needed 3. Megan? All right, mess up the social order, okay? Any others? Let's see, you could have said it was slavery is the only system that enabled whites and blacks to live together in harmony. Some said that it was an internal matter for the states to decide, so the federal government should have nothing to do with it. It pretty much covers everything. So you need 3 reasons there for 3 points. Any questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
No, I just did that one paragraph and it said the fear of revolts and the resentment of abolitionist criticism. Is that still right?
You said the fear of revolts and
Abolitionist criticism. Or the resentment of abolitionist criticism.
I don't know that the last one would be a reason given by Southerners. In other words, they wouldn't say we should have slavery because we're being criticized.
There's just a paragraph in one of the
Yeah, there's a
beginning
little
pages.
paragraph in the description.
It says that's why they were determined to protect slavery.
Okay. Okay, understand the reasons why they're determined to protect it are not the same as giving reasons for having it. The question is asking what are reasons they gave for having slavery, or justification for slavery. You could look at other things as you know, why they felt threatened and all those things, but the question is asking for reasons for slavery. Okay, so the fear of abolitionists or whatever that was would not be a reason for slavery. Any other questions? All right, count up the number that you have incorrect, put it at the top of your page, circle so I can find it easily, and let's pass those back to Caleb. Okay, let's review a little bit. Who was the founder of Mormonism?
Joseph Smith.
Joseph Smith. And in what state did he live at the time he started this whole thing? What state? Sarah? Yes, it was New York. Yes, it was New York. What did he, let's see, who appeared to him in a vision telling him that there was something buried? Stephen?
John the Baptist?
Well, before that.
God.
Who was the first one that appeared to him?
Angel.
Caleb? Moroni, or Moroni. And he was told that he would find what buried underground?
Golden plates with the deciphered message.
Right, golden plates. And he deciphered it with the Urim and the Thummim, and it became the Book of Mormon. And what primarily did the Book of Mormon talk about? What is it mostly about? So the history of what? The Nephites and the Lamanites, the history of America before the Indians. So the people that lived here before. I don't know if I mentioned this before or not, but he said that Jesus actually came here and talked to those people. That when Jesus said to his disciples, "I have other sheep that you don't know about," which in the context is talking about the Gentiles, they say that means the people in America. So he came over to America and appeared to them. All right, so they moved from New York to what state?
Yeah.
Ohio.
Ohio, Kirtland, Ohio. And in Kirtland, they got into some trouble because of financial panic. The bank failed and so on. So they moved to Missouri, Illinois, and then Missouri. So they're along the border there of the Mississippi River. Eventually, Joseph Smith is arrested while he was running for president of the United States. He's arrested, and what happens to him in jail?
Well, he was killed by a mob, but I have a question.
Yeah.
Was he like a legit presidential candidate, or did people not really take him seriously?
I don't think that he had a huge following, but I don't know. I've not seen any statistics. If you look at the election, you won't find his name as getting any electoral votes. All right, so a mob kills him in jail, which presents a problem for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. What's the problem?
He had no one to like carry on once
Right.
he was gone.
No one, he hadn't designated someone to follow him. But finally, of those that were vying for the position of leadership, one person stands out, especially when he gives a speech and they say they can see the face of Joseph Smith and hear Joseph Smith's voice. Who was that?
Bring him young.
Bring them, not yet. Bring.
Bring him young.
it's not pronounced the way it looks. Brigham Young becomes the leader, and we're going to find out that what he did today. So here we have, we're entering into what's called the Young years under Young's leadership. They were persecuted everywhere they went, so once again they need to move. There were several possibilities they were looking at. They thought, well, maybe we'll get out of Texas, but there was threat of war with Mexico at the time, and they thought that was risky. California is too populated. They know by experience if they move to an area where there are lots of people, that lots of people don't like them. And so they also considered the Great Northwest, Seattle and Washington, Oregon area. But they decided on what's called the Great Basin in Utah. It was isolated, thinly populated, seemed like a good place to go. And so they began their trek westward from Missouri on out to Utah. So the main things to remember here is, you don't need to know where they were considering, just that they decided to go to Utah. And that took place 1846 to 1847. Brigham Young named this area the state of Desiree. So they established themselves in Utah, founding the state of Desiree in 1849. Now, who was in charge and in control of this land in 1849? The United States government. The United States government didn't take too kindly to these people going out there and starting their own little country. So, and there were other people living in Utah Territory, just not a lot. So the United States created the Utah Territory. Well, that brought about strained relations between the United States and Mormons, especially over several issues. One was polygamy. So because the Mormons were practicing having more than one wife, that didn't set well with the United States government, the people in our government, because that was something that had never been approved or thought kindly of in the United States. So that's an issue. They were also nativist. They were part of the Know Nothing or the Nativist Party, which believed that we should not have foreigners coming into our country, keep it for our own people. The Mormons resisted a governor from Washington. So you know how it was established in the Northwest Ordinance that if there was a territory that the governor would be appointed by the federal government, and then when they got enough people to form their own government, then they could elect their own governor. But initially, they appointed governor, and the Mormons did not accept that they should have a governor appointed by Washington. Young felt that the territory wasn't even the United States to begin with; it belonged to Mexico, and so the United States didn't have any jurisdiction over them. And the Mormons then treated who they called Gentiles with great hostility. So for them, anyone who was not a Mormon was called a Gentile. And anyone who was coming through their territory, they viewed as being an enemy. And so people traveling through the Utah Territory, wagon trains, whatever, might just as likely be attacked by Mormons as they were by Indians. And there are several instances of massacres that took place by Mormons against wagon trains coming through. 1857, 2,500 troops were sent to force the Mormons to submit. In 1869, Utah Territory was opened to all immigrants through the Pacific Railroad. So once a railroad was built, then lots more people can come into the Utah Territory and eventually at least have a significant number to counterbalance the Mormons that are there. 1871, as Utah is getting large enough to consider becoming a state, the United States says you'll never be a state as long as you have polygamy, and suddenly the Young is no longer around, but the leader then suddenly had a vision a revelation from God saying that you no longer are to practice polygamy at a very convenient time for them to then have a law outlawing polygamy. Of course, there are many Mormons today who say that was illegitimate, and you maybe have seen TV shows where there are people still practicing polygamy today who say they are the true followers of Joseph Smith and Brigham Young. It's interesting I told you before that the temple in Kirtland, Ohio, is not owned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or the Mormons. It's owned by a group that broke away from them and came back to Kirtland and took over that property, and they call themselves the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They don't like to be called Mormons. They say we're not Mormons. The Mormons are those people that followed Brigham Young, and Brigham Young took everybody a wrong direction. We're the true followers of Joseph Smith. And so they say Joseph Smith didn't practice polygamy. That was something that Brigham Young brought in. Well, I think history tells us something different, but that's what they say anyway. All right, any questions to this point? So Utah was allowed to become a state, having passed laws against bigamy, having 2 wives, which would, of course, also preclude polygamy, having more than 2 wives. No questions? All right. Tomorrow, then, we will move on to the theology of the Mormons. What do Mormons believe? I think you'll find that interesting. So,